We all know what Bangalore is like today.
It's the fastest growing tech hub, a city leading in IT innovation, a hotspot for VCs.
Bangalore is number one in India's innovation index. It is an inclusive city.
But if you take a time machine and go back to the 1980s, you'll see something very different. Quiet streets full of trees, old bungalows, small old school filter coffee joints, and no traffic. Bangalore used to be a sleepy pensioner's paradise. But today, Bangalore is a bustling IT and startup hub. Bangalore accounts for 40% of all of India's IT exports and 45% of all of India's unicorns, which are startups worth more than $1 billion. And yes, it is also the second most congested city in India, riddled with a lot of traffic jams, second only to Kolkata. So how did the Garden City and City of Lakes become the startup capital of India? India's equivalent of the Silicon Valley. Believe it or not, it all just started with one event. Welcome back to another video of our channel and to our 9th economic case study. This time on the rise of Bangalore. So, what was that one event that transformed the city? Have you heard of IISc, Indian Institute of Science? It is regarded as one of the best universities for science and research in the world. It has also had a nickname for over a century now. It was and is called the cradle of Indian science. It was Jamsetji Tata's vision to set up a world-class science institute in India. And in 1909, he was going to set it up in Roorkela, Odisha. But then the Maharaja of Mysore at the time, Krishnaraj Wadiyar IV, comes into the picture. He was a visionary. He donated a large plot of land in Bangalore for the institute's establishment and really encouraged Jamsetji Tata to set it up in Bangalore. By the way, another great thing about the Maharaja is that while primary education was made mandatory in India in 2009, he made it mandatory in the constituency of Mysore in 1913. He really was a visionary. Now you might think how the establishment of one institute could really transform a city in such a dramatic way. Well, it led to a domino effect. A positive domino effect. Now, because IISc was based out of Bangalore, it was producing a lot of great talent in research and science. So post-independence, when the government was looking to set up PSUs like Hindustan Aeronautics Limited and Bharat Electronics Limited, Bangalore was chosen as the headquarters for these PSUs. Why? Because of the availability of talent in science and research. For the same reason, by the way, Bangalore was also chosen as the headquarters for ISRO, Indian Space and Research Organization. All of this built a culture of science, innovation and research within the city. It almost became a cycle. People with talent in science and research were based out of Bangalore, as a result of which companies got situated in Bangalore, as a result of which people from all over the country with talents in science and research started moving to Bangalore. Interestingly, this was also an era when offshoring of electronic manufacturing was becoming very common. Labor in countries like the US was extremely expensive and relatively it was much cheaper in countries like China, Vietnam and of course India. Texas Instruments was one of the first big MNCs to set their base in Bangalore and IBM came next. IBM, by the way, prior to Bangalore was situated in Kolkata. And we've also covered this story as to why they moved from Kolkata to Bangalore. Do definitely check it out as well in our video on the fall of Kolkata. It's a very interesting story where IBM was almost forced to leave the state. But anyway, IBM and Texas Instruments was just the start. This was also the time when great changes were taking place at a national level. These changes were set to change the fortune both of Bangalore and India. It is the reason why India eventually became the back office of the world. In 1984, under Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi, India introduced the Computer and Software Policy. The policy allowed for duty-free imports of advanced computers, which was crucial for software development capabilities. Now, it might not seem like much, but this is exactly what set the base for India's IT industry. Indirectly, the policy promoted the development and export of computer software. Around the same time, there were very favorable changes made in India's EXIM policy, which is Export-Import Policy. This was done to encourage exports and simplifying trade procedures. Now, this was big. Do remember that this was one point in time when India was largely a socialist country, where taxes were even higher than 90% at one point in time. And this was also an era of license Raj, where to do any business you probably needed a license and the process of getting that license was very cumbersome. So given that environment, These policies were a game changer. By the way, if it wasn't for these policies and eventually the liberalization of the Indian economy in 1991, there is a very high possibility that we would have defaulted on our debt and we would have been struggling just the way Pakistan and Sri Lanka have been in the current times. Thankfully, the right changes were made at just the right time. Anyway, this led to companies like Wipro and Infosys coming up in Bangalore. Wipro, by the way, before getting into IT, was selling and manufacturing vegetable oils. They switched to IT because of the opportunity that had come up. At the same time, other IT companies as well, such as HCL and TCS, were set up in Delhi and Bombay respectively. But Bangalore almost established itself as the IT hub. In 1991, Bangalore's IT exports were a mere 16 crore rupees. But then came the dot-com boom and the Y2K movement in the US. Since American tech employees were a lot more expensive than Indian tech employees, a lot of the work began getting outsourced to these IT companies. Fast forward to today, Bangalore's IT exports are in excess of $64 billion, which is over 5.5 lakh crore rupees. This is literally 40% of all of India's IT exports. Further, a lot of these tech employees eventually ended up quitting their jobs and starting their own companies, their own startups. And Bangalore slowly started becoming the startup hub of the country. The state government also played a huge role in this with the Startup Karnataka initiative. Under the Startup Karnataka initiative, the Karnataka government provided 2,000 crore rupees in funding, gave financial support to startups and set up 50 incubators. The initiative indeed is commendable, but at the core of it, I really feel that the true reason behind the success of Bangalore has been the ecosystem which was built there, starting with the IISc. This led to the PSU companies and ISRO being based there, and eventually the tech companies from all over the country and the world. So if you really think of it, the success of Bangalore can be attributed to its success in attracting talent from all over the country. But the recent developments in the state and the city are kind of doing the opposite. The entire narrative that you need to learn Kannada in order to work and live in Bangalore, and then that there should be 70% reservation for Kannadigas in private companies, is just kind of questionable, to say the least. It almost seems as if they are now trying to push the talent away that really was the reason why Bangalore is so successful. Let me know your thoughts on this issue in the comment section below. And as always, I really hope you enjoyed watching this video and found it useful. Thank you so much for watching.